Greetings, Minot sports fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Minot Sports Podcast presented by KMSU TV and Radio, home to the many young broadcasters out there going to school at Minot State University. I'd like to welcome you guys into episode number 24 of the podcast on season 2. It has actually been a long time, quite over a month actually, since I've last been on the mic. I mentioned last episode that I've just gotten really busy, taking up some new positions, of course, with the football team. And if you don't know that, or if I didn't mention it yet, maybe I didn't, I'm not quite sure, but that's what's been going on. Also, taking up all the schoolwork. We are winding down on the spring semester this year in 2021. So hopefully more things should start to open up here. But I'm glad for all you guys that are sticking along with it, especially all of the interactions on social media. Much appreciated. You guys are definitely the real ones here, making my life easier, and credit goes out to all you guys. But with that said, thank you for your patience. We are now on for episode 24, and like I said, the Minot Sports Podcast, part of the KMSU TV and Radio series. We are also sponsored by Joshua Strong and Peyton Bartsch Photography. Some nice, really talented photographers in the area, and we thank them along in being a part of the Minot Sports family. I am your host for each and every episode, Cole Clementich, a sophomore in the Minot State Broadcasting Department, or, like I mentioned, our name for our department, kind of our slang term, however you call it, KMSU, or I should say probably our station name, KMSU. There's a lot of great opportunities in there. Can get on live TV like MSU Inside Out. I'm currently taking up the sports reporter position, but once the semester is done, we'll be back for a new semester next fall. Obviously, since it is a class and not in the summer, we take the summers off and just roll right through it whenever a new school year starts, or we're just halfway there. It is available in both semesters. And of course, taking up some live radio too on KMSU Radio. That's a lot of fun as well. So be sure to check out KMSU on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Instagram is at KMSU TV Radio. Facebook is at KMSU19. There's also the same handle for the Twitter page as well. And like I've been saying, all these episodes, the bread and butter, all the goodies of the content that come right through our department. The YouTube page at KMSU TV, MSU Inside Out. There's also the Lookout podcast by Dr. Samuel Stinson and Robert Kibler. They're doing a great job there, as well as some other student productions. And with the message coming from the office of Dr. Shirley that they are expecting to have a normal fall this year, just getting back to normalcy, so no masks, no social distancing, a complete, unrestricted fall semester. So fingers crossed that that's how it will go. That's definitely in need of that to really sort of catch up after everything that has happened. But enough of that chatter. Another show for you guys today after a while. And today, I promised to you Class B fans out there from R.E. Deemers and Bishop Ryan, we will recap the winter sports season. I know we're well into the spring season now. We'll talk about them eventually. I'm not sure if it'll be this episode or next, but the reason I say it that way is because I actually encountered with a former Minot High girls hockey player who now plays for the Dakota College at Bottineau Lady Jacks. If you know who Kaya Shaw is, she was very instrumental and one of the many seniors that led the Majets team, not this past year, but last year, before the COVID madness started to gain some traction, but they got the season over and done with before it got really serious. We actually had encountered with her via social media, and we had her on the podcast just recently. So she'll be joining on here in a little bit. If you notice a difference in the sound quality of the microphones, it's because currently I am recording from home, but I ended up doing the interview inside our wonderful KMSU studios. So if you notice a slight difference, that is why. And also, just want to clarify too that there is a little bit of a static noise in the background. I do apologize in advance. I am not quite sure how to accurately fix it, besides maybe adjusting the levels, but that would require the interview to sound quiet or quieter than it usually did, at least listening to it over again. So I do want to apologize for that, but Kaya was great. Got a lot of information from her, got her to push, some things out there, and this was a fun interview to tape. She was great. Props to the DCB head coach for allowing this to happen too. Want to make sure we credit all parties involved, and I had a lot of fun doing this. And so you will get to hear from her momentarily. And I mentioned before that we'll also recap the Class B winter athletics between Bishop Bryan and RE Deemers, basketball, wrestling, much more to follow. And we're behind on a lot of topics to get to, even with the ACHA Women's National Tournament being hosted here in Minot at the Mesa. The women's MSU team losing in the semis. The men's team in St. Louis for their tournament making it all the way to the national championship game. Unfortunately, losing to Adrian, who has just been an absolute bulldozer over everyone this year. And they were just so tough to beat. Really, how could you get past them was an issue. And mostly that, too, for the Liberty women's hockey team, which Minot didn't have to face in the tournament, but they ended up winning it all. So, yeah, lots of content to get through with that. Not sure if it'll be in this episode or the next, but just kind of giving a brief summary or overview on that. And so we're quite a bit into this intro. And so with that said, let's take a break for a moment here. I want to tell you guys about the two photographers that are just making content that is just can't be beaten. And when you talk about Joshua Strong photography, he goes all and out, not only on the camera, but he also makes some wonderful designs. His main studies were multimedia at Minot State. He now just got out of Kenya, so he's living his best life right now. And make no mistake also that Peyton Bartsch, he is a good graphic designer himself too, and he's got a high quality camera himself, and all he needs is just his supersonic vision, some wonderful on-point trigger fingers, but not too trigger happy with it, and bada bing, bada boom, they get their shots, they post them out for everyone to see on social media, and they're both great at it. So give Joshua Strong and Peyton Bartsch some follows on social media. We thank them for their sponsorship of the Minot Sports Podcast. Joshua Strong at _Joshua W. Strong on Twitter and Instagram. For Peyton Bartsch at Peyton Bartsch Photography on Instagram and at Bartsch Photos on Twitter. We will be right back. And on the other side, you will hear member of the DCB Lady Jacks, Kaya Shah. We'll be right back. Joining us now on the Minot Sports Podcast, we're joined by one of the hockey players that play for the Dakota College at Bottineau Lady Jacks. However, she is an alumni of Minot High, having played for the girls hockey team here in town. Joining us is Kaya Shah, and Kaya, it's been a while. We've crossed paths virtually on social media at this time. How are you, and what has your year been looking like so far?
I've been good. Luckily, with COVID and everything going on, I was still able to have in-person classes, which was nice. I'm just trying to finish out the school year strong and getting good grades and staying in shape, things like that for the upcoming season next year.
Very nice. And, for you coming in from Minot High, going to DCB. You could have went, I would say, in so many different directions. But what was it about Dakota College that really attracted you?
Just the fact that like I was offered to play for them, and that's 2 more years of hockey, and they also are very like interconnected with MSU, so it's going to be a lot easier to transfer. And I like the fact that it's a smaller school, and just the fact that I could be able to play hockey for 2 more years when I kind of decided that I was done with the sport.
Yeah, and not every athlete usually gets the opportunity for an offer to play somewhere. And, luckily for you, that just speaks to how good of a player you are, certainly. And, hey, I mean, 2 free years of hockey, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that, right?
Right.
And so, with that, I think it is fair to say that you are a part of DCB that I think has one of the lowest student enrollments of all the state. I could be way off on that, but for the community that is Bottineau, it just has that perfect fit. For those who don't know about the college in comparison to maybe some other 2-year community colleges like BSC, for example, have you heard of any misconceptions about it, and just possibly what might they be?
Just a lot of people are more like for 4 year schools or things like that, and just a lot of people are like, why are you going to Bottineau or things like that. It's like I like the small school, and I prefer like having smaller classes and being a lot closer with my professors than I think I would at other schools. And it's a lot easier transferring from high school and starting at like a 2 year school level to make sure that like the transfer into college is a lot easier and not as stressful as I think it would be for a 4 year school.
You mentioned that, and, sometimes it might take, a transfer or two just to get to where you want to go. And when you include your offer in there, certainly can make things a whole lot easier for sure. But obviously on the ice, you're paving your way and people get to see you in that aspect. And to be honest, that's kind of how I get to know names. It's easy to look at a roster list or roster sheet and see someone's name, number, how they play, watching them on the ice. You're committed to, or when you're committed to your studies in the classroom, however, off the ice, how do you see yourself as that impact on campus? Or in other words, how are you getting people to see what you do in your studies off the ice? Because athletes are human beings too, and we all have our time commitments every day. How do you view this in particular?
Um, I do try to make sure that like I do good in school as well, like as being an athlete because I am there for my education as well, and just making sure that I do go to class, like professors know my name, I say hi to them, my advisors know my name, and just make sure that when I like am in class that my professors like do like rely on me and that they know that I'll do my work, or even other students or even teammates know they can come to me if they like need help with anything, and just know that uh, like being a good student helps with potential offers for schools in the future, and just helping out transcripts and things like that.
If you haven't, uh, excuse me, so what exactly, I don't know if you've answered this yet in particular, but what are you taking up right now? And this is all good stuff, by the way, making that commitment to class because, there's been often, years where the athletes just want to go for the sports. And I think as we get into this day and age nowadays, there's obviously schools and athletics in particular are looking for, students who are good at athletics, but really, really committed to all the work in the classroom. So, what exactly are you taking up right now? What subject? What is it all about? And, what piques your interest on that specific subject that puts you, in a working mood and just having that commitment, pushing you to have that commitment in the classroom?
So I'm studying business administration, so really like any of the business classes I'm taking, because that really is what piques my interest. So knowing that like going to like economics class or an accounting class or a management class, knowing that I'm gonna be learning things that I like truly do have interest in, really helps the fact like it makes me want to get up for the day and go to class and learn, because learning those skills and things will like obviously help me get the degree and careers I want in the future.
Yeah, very good stuff for sure. And, just to see athletes, committing to other things, it's really cool because even you can get multiple talents from it for sure. And what are some hobbies that maybe you like to do on campus, if not for hockey? What are some of the activities, maybe not in the classroom, but, still something like an event on campus? What are some activities that seem to dominate the campus from a week to week basis?
Um, Usually just like a lot of students just hanging out like by or like with other teammates or other friends, and usually the gym's always open, so a lot of people go and like play basketball with their friends or like volleyball, and we try to have like campus activities throughout the week. Like a few nights ago, there was like a volleyball tournament you could sign up to do, or even like being able to ride bikes around the campus. And there's like nearby parks that people go to, or even just like playing softball out like on the baseball field and things like that.
I know here at Minot State we have this thing now. You may have heard of it, but it's MSU Life, where there's a whole the club. There's a whole bunch of events that the club organizes for students to participate. Get out there, get active, have any sort of fun, like bingo or just like some. I know they have a Pinterest night where you can make some nice little creations from any sort of resources that they have. Do you know if DCB has that sort of thing? Do they have any ways for students to participate and get active outside of athletics?
There's some things here and there. Like there's a honor society group that will like organize fundraisers, even just like smaller events held around campus for students to go to meet other people or just to get out of their dorms once in a while and like hang out, like things like that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fun actually. And for the school size that you guys have, and getting anything in particular for like any clubs, that's a bonus for the students. You want to make it, the colleges want to make it a good life as possible for each and every one of you guys and myself even in particular. But make no mistake, I think even I tend to forget that we all started somewhere, and that especially applies to going to college. Looking back on your first year, I mean, you got through it. It seems like a very good fit for you and in your plans. But looking back, what things did you feel good about, and what were kind of some struggles that you faced that maybe future DCB students might encounter?
Um, it was just really tough this year with COVID and like not knowing if you're gonna be able to go to classes in person or online. But I don't really think there were much struggles. First couple weeks of school were a little difficult just because getting into the swing of like not having to go be at class 8 straight hours and things like that. But it was really nice because all the professors are really easy to talk to, and if you are struggling with classes or anything, there's a lot of um, like opportunities for tutors or things like that for students if they are having troubles. And I think DCB does a really good job at doing that, especially with being a smaller school. Um, but I don't think there was really any struggles my first year, like for school or anything like that.
It's good that you bring that up because for Dakota College at Bottineau being, like you said, small that it is in the community that it's placed at, you know, it's really easy to connect with people, is it not? Am I correct on that?
Yes, even people that you like, even if they don't live on campus or even just um like normal citizens in the like town, if you go out, most like them know you go to school there, and there's just a like most of the community is really for like the school and athletics and things like that. So it's nice to just connect with anyone really in the town and things like that.
And speaking of connecting with others, you're at that stage in your life where when you go back home to Minot or just even staying in DCB like for short breaks during the school year, you might see some old friends from high school or some you just might not ever see again. That's one sad part about it, but have you had the chance to connect with some old pals or teammates from Minot High? I know one, Brenna Abrahamson, went off to play college hockey elsewhere. O'Malley Esslinger stood pat in Minot to play hockey with the Beavers. Have you connected with them, and how are they doing if you know anything on that front?
Yeah, it was nice because like we did play MSU a few times, so I would see like O'Malley when we would come to mine at a player, if they would come to Bottineau to play, and it was nice to be able to catch up with her and see how things are going for her. And Brent and I have luckily stayed kind of close throughout graduating high school, and we'll catch up once in a while. And especially at the beginning of the year, it was really hard for both of us being away from home and just kind of relying on one of each other, making like just seeing how she was doing, being away from home and playing and things like that. And I know she really enjoys it where she's at. And even being in town, sometimes on the weekend, coming up from Bottineau, just shopping or things like that, and meeting up with old classmates is really nice to see how they're doing with the way they went for college and things like that. It's really nice to catch up with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even I think I can probably speak for everyone on this topic. For all that go to college, we all get lost in our own works and whatever else that we may do. And just taking a weekend or taking some time, make a phone call to an old friend or something like that. Never hurts to do that. And really, that's gotta feel good in the heart. And sometimes because you never get to see him every day, and that's it's a tough part, but also like you said with O'Malley, playing hockey here, that's good because for the geography, that aspect, both teams are close to each other here in the state. I was fortunate enough to actually go to the Lumber Dome for one of your guys' games when mine was there, and it's a nice little rink, and just seeing some of the Minot High alumni, it's really cool to see that, and that's probably got to be the same maybe for other teammates too, where they probably came from one team and they split in different directions, but met up again just on different benches. But yeah, it's really cool experiencing that. But in moving on to now the hockey aspect of things, some very relevant topics as we're getting done with the college season. Now, the college hockey season being done at this time, you were a part of, going to high school a little bit here. You were a part of a unique senior class at Minot High for the Majets hockey team. One where the class ahead of you guys left the team. They had their reasons why. But for you and the others having to persevere through, but not only doing that, but also taking this program a step further, finally getting out of the first round of that state tournament and ended up taking third place, a couple years ago. Something I think that is fair to say that no one saw coming, and especially having to contest with Bismarck, giving them a hard run for their money. Now with the heightened expectations for that team, did you guys as a group have foreseen that coming?
No, it was always a dream, especially like freshman year of high school, playing for the high school team, wanting to make it past first round, and especially with it being my last year, senior year, it was very like we really wanted to, and we knew we had a lot of talent on the team, especially we had a lot of young girls. And so it was a little difficult, being the year before the senior class obviously did not play. And when it came to our senior year, it was really like, wow, like we don't have next year, be like, oh, we can do it next year. And so it was really, really nerve wracking, especially playing, Fargo North South in the first round game, us being sixth seed and them being third seed. It was really, I don't think anyone could have thought like we were gonna win, and obviously like we all wanted to, but actually being able to kind of have that upset and making history, especially it being like a lot of ours last game ever, or just last game of our senior year. It was really like emotional, and it's probably my favorite, and probably will be my favorite hockey memory for the rest of my life. Just knowing that I was a part of like Minot High history and being able to get that third place plaque that hadn't been done in like 14 years. So
And honestly, at that time, that made headlines. Like, just the huge, like the enormous, headlines you girls made at that time. That really seemed to turn some heads. And when it happened, it was just like, whoa, did this really happen? And you girls definitely made it possible. And that's not easy. Having that title of, oh, they're not going to get out of the first round, they're just going to squander once again. But no, you've switched the narrative around, and now the girls behind you, they can say they were a part of that experience, but also they can try and follow up through that. Unfortunately, lost in the first round again this year, but however, they took it to overtime. They took it to Grand Forks. It was a coin flip. They could have very well easily won that game, but unfortunately, it didn't go their way. But that leaves some heightened expectations for the team now, and really can push the narrative that, hey, this team can do something in the postseason. Is that fair to say?
yes, I think it is.
And now this group specifically, the one now has had quite a few players, even yourself, sign on to play college hockey. And even if it wasn't for the sport of hockey, some others even took up other college athletics, whether it's softball or volleyball or what have you. What does that say about the program, also your senior class as well, following in all the footsteps of the former players and now taking up those leadership roles for the younger players? What does that say for you guys?
I think it just says that, like whether you do want to like play college sports, like whether it's hockey or the other sports you participate in, I think especially with the younger girls, it shows that, they do look up to us and they see us as sometimes big sisters. And if they see, even if it's just one of us going on to play college hockey, I think it helps them if they kind of were on the edge or didn't really know if they could. It makes them think, well, if like she can do it, I can do it. And I think it pushes them a lot more to like succeed, especially if they want to be a college athlete, if even if it's not for hockey, that if like even one of us signs or a couple of us, it gives them a little bit more hope and like dedication to want to become a college athlete.
And a little bit to add on to that, but when you see them commit to college athletics now, it just seems like, when you or Brenna or O'Malley do that sort of thing, they want to do, they also want to do that. And they also want to follow suit, take Paige Ackerman, for example, coming here to Minot State. That's going to be a lot of fun next year when you guys meet up once again between DCB and MSU. But how does that feel, whether it's you or someone else in your senior class, knowing that you left a good handle for these girls to grasp on the team?
It gets me excited. Like when I saw that Paige signed, like I was very excited. I knew a little bit that she did want to play in college, and it's just nice to see these girls like playing with them my whole life, watching them like grow, and then like going to sign at other schools, whether it's stay in Minot or not. It's just very like exciting and like very proud to watch them, be able to be such an athlete that they are able to play for a school.
I mentioned this. I couldn't remember. It was so long ago. If I think it might have been one of the MSU football coaches that, when you go to see, when you see someone in particular that you graduate with and they go on to greener pastures, but they have a lot of success doing it, we can be the lucky ones to say, hey, I graduated with that person, or hey, I went to high school with them, and just, seeing other people, really start to make a name for themselves and build that success and, really take on that resume, that's got to feel good. And, even for you and your teammates, seeing this happen, it's a good sight to see. And I think, definitely will lead to a brighter future. And it's going to, there's going to be a lot of nice stories to be told out of it. So yeah, you're spot on right there. And really for moving on, whether it's college athletics or even just college in general, there's got to be, some veteranship, some veteran leadership in there, some advice for you being one of the younger players, going a couple years back before the senior class, before you had left. What has been, some noteworthy advice you've gotten before, even if you just entered college, or what would you say were some of the best words you heard in beginning to prepare for life, being done with high school and such, whether in sports or outside of that? What's your take on that?
Just like being told, like, if you really do like have a dream or see like yourself doing something, like don't be afraid to do it, even if there's a lot of people doubting you and saying like, oh, you're not good enough to go to school there, or you won't be able to like play there. Like, if you truly do believe you can do something, like no matter what anyone says, like go ahead and do it, and do it for yourself. Don't ever really do anything to like make other people happy. Do it to make yourself happy, and just, you know, like always work hard, like no matter what. Like, don't, like, if you like, like one more, like practicing one more hour, studying one more hour, that 1 hour could set you apart from so many people. And just putting in the extra work, even if you don't want to, it really will like help you succeed and help you become a better person, a better student, a better athlete. And just, like, I know that one for sure I've carried through, especially my first year of college. Just making sure like I put in extra work where it needs to be to set my apart from other students or teammates or things like that.
Yeah, I bet you're like, oh yeah, well watch me do this. I'm kidding, but yeah, but really, that just there's gonna be, like you said, some doubters out there, but you can prove them wrong. If you set your worth to it, if you set your goals to it, I'm sure you've done it many times, and you've proved them wrong time and time again. Not to say there aren't any, but there are going to be, it happens for everyone. There's going to be someone, or at least any group in particular out there. There's going to be, some doubts that sit in your mind, and can I really do this? But I think, just really, you're doing a really fantastic job. Just being able to get offered, that says a lot about you as a player, and really that goes to show you that, once again, the athlete that you are, and even for some of the others too. And that's really, really good thing to put on your resume and such. And also, going to the DCB Lady Jacks, what are some memories, you're going before DCB Lady Jacks hockey, what are some memories that you've had with the Minot High team that relate to what you're doing now with the current team that you're playing for?
Well, kind of like getting past that, first round at state, and it was like a head turner for everyone, and how a lot of people didn't like expect us to get that far. And kind of correlates with this year, like being a first year team. Obviously, like it was really like nerve-wracking. I hadn't played with any of these girls before, and a lot of people, like not even just in our division, but in the like college level, like sports, men and women, like a lot of them were going to be watching us this year, and like they didn't think we would do well because we were a first year team. And just kind of proving that throughout the year, like we ended up doing really well despite not having nationals, and just proving that like we are here to play, like we are here to hopefully win a national championship within like the next coming years. And I think when people, like, we finally ended our season and people saw how well we did as a first year team, it kind of got them like, wow, like they actually are here to like do good and play. And having more games next year, I think a lot of teams are excited to play us, especially after seeing how well we did.
Yeah, and I think that, that says a lot about the program that you guys are building. Obviously, still very young team, but with time, it's going to grow. And, there's going to be some success for your girls to be had. And certainly, like you said, there's going to be some years where you guys, your team, it's going to be a player in the coming years and making it for nationals, hopefully. And, hopefully all that goes well. But, playing at home games in the Lumber Dome, where the DCB Lady Jacks and the men's team play at, you know, I think is a very nice rink for the community that you guys have there. What's it like going from a nice brand new facility that is the Mesa to now the Lumberdome? And what do you most like about being there for the Lumberdome?
Well, it was a lot different, obviously, going from like having 3 sheets of ice and it being brand new to 1 sheet of ice and a rink that's been there for a while. But I think I like it a lot because, it's just has a bit more like community feel to it, and like it has been there forever, and it's that like like it's the only rink we have, and everyone plays there, and it's nice to play where like the younger kids play, and the younger kids get to play where the college kids play, and despite it being a little older, like it is like a nice rink. It's really cold, good like ice, and it's just nice to just be able to play where everybody plays, and it's not just for the college kids or just the younger kids, and it's nice to be able to play where the men play and things like that, and just how it's shared by everyone in the community and not just for certain people.
Is it easier to attend hockey games with one ice sheet versus three?
Yes, it is. It's gets a little cramped sometimes, but it's nice to know like they're always going to be playing there and you don't have to worry about like being anywhere else. And since there is only 1 sheet of ice and one rink, it's everyone goes if they can, and it's nice to see the whole community there, the most of the college kids there to support.
We'll transition to the team for the DCB Lady Jacks, whether it's a player or coach. Who along the ride has helped you in transition from high school to college hockey in particular?
I think a little bit of both, the coach and teammates, we all came from different levels of hockey, and it was nice to, you know, being a first year team, none of us had played together, and it was all like our first year. We were all rookies, so it was nice to watch us all grow, having Canadians on the team playing AAA, and then a few other girls like playing 19U or high school. It was nice to kind of go through the transition together, especially having help from our coach, him knowing that we were all kind of at different stages of playing, and him being understanding of that the transition was going to be a little difficult for everyone, but at the end of the day, everyone was really like positive about it, and like I knew I could always rely on my teammates and my coach if I had questions, and know they were going to help me throughout the transition from the beginning of the year to now.
So speaking of making transitions easy, who would you say for either whether player or coach, who would you say is the most funniest one on the team, and who would you say is the most serious?
Um, I mean, our coach is pretty funny and he can be serious at times, but I think all of us are pretty funny. Some more than other, but our coach especially, he is very good at being serious when he needs to be, but then also, kind of being laid back and being funny and joking around with us as well. And that was really nice for all of us to know that we could joke around with our coach, but when he needed to be serious, and especially like during games and things like that, we could rely on him to be a stricter coach when he needs to be.
Yeah, I think those are some good traits for a coach. And coach, if you're listening, good job, because you definitely relate to the players. That's really good, really key. To do that, and a good trait to have as a coach too, especially. But just tell us, from players to coaches, yada yada yada. What as a team, what would you say is the most experience, or what's the most unique experience or most unique arena that you've traveled to this season? It could be both, or it could be one or the other.
Um, I think the we got to go to Michigan over our spring break, and we got to play at Lake Superior State University. On the last day, we actually got to play in their rink, which was really nice. It was right by the campus, and it was kind of like same kind of setup as the Pepsi Arena, which was really nice, and it was really big. And so I think that was the coolest and experience and arena that we got to go to this year, just because it was nice to play in another rink, but also in a big rink like that, and it especially being like the universities. And I think it was a cool experience for all of us, our coach as well.
Awesome. Now, not to be a Debbie Downer here, but is there ever any moments where the PA announcer blunders your first name? Is there ever do the teammates get a good laugh out of it? Is there some kind of funny moments there? Has that happened at all, or hopefully has it not happened? What is your experience on that?
It usually happens at least once. I'm kind of used to it by now, just growing up, kind of being the one on the team with an odd name. But there's a few other girls that sometimes get their name mispronounced, so we all kind of have a laugh about it, and it's nice, like not being the only one, I guess, and we all just kind of joke around with it and just shake it off.
Yep, happens to everyone, happens to the best of us, so not alone for sure. But what would you say is best part about being on the college team?
I guess just being able to play hockey and just it the teammates are like, they're all very nice, and we clicked very fast and well, and we all worked together really well. And it's nice to know that I have like 19 other girls I can talk to whenever I need, and just kind of all big and little sisters to each other, and know that we're all going to be there for each other no matter what, even if we get in fights, even if there's drama or things like that. And just meeting all these new people, and like if I wasn't playing hockey, I probably would not know any of them, and just meeting all these new girls and people that I would have never known before, and knowing that they'll probably be in my life for the rest of my life, which is cool.
Yeah, that's a good thing to, gel early while you can, while being on the hockey team for sure, whether it's DCB or talking Minot State, that's key for all teams around in the country. And now just take hockey and work in the classroom combined, or just life in general. But finally, what are your goals, whether it's on or off the ice, as you continue along in your college career? It can be life, hockey, any sports, or anything else in particular. What's your end all be all? What are you hoping to gain from, whether it's at DCB or if you get done there, transfer elsewhere maybe? What are your goals looking like in the future?
Well, I'm finishing off my 2 years at DCB, and getting my degree there, and hopefully, next year we get to have nationals for our division, and playing really well there and seeing what happens, and hopefully end up transferring back to Minot and finishing off my college career there, and then just hopefully finding a career that I want to be in for my life. But for now, just making sure I finish off my 2 years at Bottineau and graduate there, and then head on over to Minot State.
Awesome. Well, we hope for the most success for you, definitely for sure, and hope all goes well. And is there any social media that you want people to see you or follow you on? You want to mention that maybe real quick?
I guess just like my Instagram, which is just my first and last name, and that's about it, I think.
Alrighty, well, fans can catch her on Instagram. And Kaya, we thank you so much for being on the podcast today. That is all we have. And, once again, certainly we're looking forward to you doing all the work, on the ice as well. Hopefully, for sure, we'll catch you at some games. And, we'll just wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And, well, Minot sports fans, you just heard Kaya Shaw, hockey player for the Dakota College at Bottineau Lady Jacks, but also alumni of the Minot High Majets. That is all we have. And Kaya, thank you for joining us once again. And we'll be right back after this quick break.
Welcome to KMSU TV and Radio. You might be asking, what is KMSU? It is the brand name for the MSU Broadcasting Department. home to the many young and aspiring communication majors here at Minot State University. When joining KMSU, there will be many different opportunities to get involved. Students will get a hands-on learning experience in lots of future career fields, like the production of content, being a leader in public relations, operating social media, or even writing and journalism. KMSU is also home to the local public access channel, where students can produce the weekly campus TV show and talk on live radio. From us here at KMSU, we hope to see you along the way.
And so there you have it with the interview with Kaya Shaw. Just seemed to be so humble and really seemed to be all about the hockey aspect, the hockey side of things. And you can tell that she has a clear vision of what goals she has. And even if they don't work out, like, she's still in a prime position to go a different direction. Not saying that they're going to be unsuccessful for her, but, she's in a prime position to succeed. And if it's not there, there's plenty of other options out there. So she's willing to explore. She's putting in the work. And like I mentioned there, we hope for the best for her and definitely think it will happen indeed for her to succeed. But moving on now, like I promised, to all you high schoolers here in town that attend R.E. Deemers and Bishop Bryan, the Christian and Catholic private schools in the area, we'll talk some winter sports, and I know that it is quite a few days into the spring season, which we will get on with that soon. But we'll recap, just like we did with the Minot High Athletics, we'll recap all that happened for the winter sports teams for Bishop Bryan and R.E. Deemers. Wasting no time, let's start it off quickly with Bishop Bryan Lions Wrestling, and for them taking 5th place, the Consolation Championship in last year's state tournament. I believe that to be the case. I think for them, you could say it was a step back, given that they had missed the state tournament entirely. Still had some quality wrestlers in the individual tournaments. One went as far as they could. The rest, want to say, got out pretty early. Maybe made it past a round. I don't remember exactly. But I think it's fair to say that they probably weren't up to their standards. I know they lost a few guys. Probably could have done better this year as far as not making it to the state tournament. Could have maybe squeaked in. But when you go back to the Minot High wrestling season and how it went, there was no WDA tournament. It was different this time around for Class B, as they did get region tournaments, and Bishop Bryan just could not get the job done in both state qualifiers. Even in the last chance opportunity, there were some matches where I thought, okay, maybe they're gonna give the Lions a run for their money. But Bishop Bryan was just all performance, all show, and no talk. They went out there and proved themselves, but then some of the big boys came in play, and that drew up some major challenges for the Lions, and pretty close, just could not get it done this year. And I think, honestly, it is fair to say that they were looking for that spot in the state tournament. They didn't get it this year. They competed for it, but came up just short. So I think they are well aware of what they have. And make no mistake, people, this is a young group, a young, inexperienced group, yet they still have a few seniors on the roster, but it's young. And just wait, next year and the year after, they got a whole bunch of wrestlers that are still early in their high school days. Some even in middle school. That's how young they are. And I think inexperience probably took a toll on this team. But when you wait until next year or even the year after, some of these young guys on the team, they're going to improve massively. There's going to be major improvement. At least that's probably what the expectation is going to be. But there's going to be some massive improvement with this team. When these kids get older, more experienced, more learning, studying film, or whatever else you call it, outside of training on the mat or whatever, they're going to pick out their wrongdoings and they're going to be praised for what they did right. They're going to find it or they're going to find those and they will improve drastically. So yes, even though they probably didn't get to what they were hoping for, this team is still young and they're gonna be making headlines in the next couple years, and watch out for how they do. Heck, they could finish higher than their 5th place finish recently at the state tournament. So I would definitely be on the lookout for them. And then as we stick along with more Bishop Ryan, moving to basketball, we'll start with the girls first off. Probably not the most exciting offensive team to watch on the court, but they can get to you defensively. Like with their style of game that Coach Coleman has them playing, if you don't fall for the defensive trap that is Bishop Ryan, you could really, and I mean really, have a hard time scoring against them. And then going back to what I was saying about Bishop Ryan offensively, they weren't exactly the strongest themselves, and really this past year it was a whole bunch of games where it was, just back and forth, 30-30, 32-32, 34-34, just on and on, back and forth. Even cases where it was like 46-41. Now all of a sudden it's 48-46, but then it's back up to 48-48 tie. Like, if you got in a close match with these girls where it was like that, you probably would have been in trouble and you would have fallen into their defensive trap, because this team, I don't know what it was, but in the paint, just so hard to score against. They probably, I want to say, let up a lot of shooting opportunities for the opposing side, but they weren't high quality shots. These were low quality enough that, the other team just couldn't finish. And the same for Ryan too. Offensively, they had a hard time scoring, so it was just these defensive grudges for each game. And I think if you were one of the coaches going up against the BRCS girls basketball team, the last thing you probably wanted was to not get into such a battle where the final score can be 46-43 or any of those other scores that I mentioned. Like, if it was a defensive battle, you had to get out of there immediately and just go on an absolute tear, or, just do well enough defensively and even try and find those soft spots for better shooting opportunities, because Bishop Ryan girls, they were just hard to score against, but also not so hard to let up on scoring from them, because even they had their fair share of missed chances. They had some solid 3-point shooters, Bishop Ryan did. Just, it seemed most of the chances did not go in for them. And so they really had to utilize the paint a lot. And even inside there, those were just miss after miss every so once in a while. And really, it was just a defensive slugfest on each side. And I think for Bishop Ryan, they ended up losing in a Region 6 qualifier. It just so had to be against the Lady Knights from RE Deemers, which we will actually touch on them here momentarily. It was just the luck of the draw that they paired up with them, and Bishop Ryan, they just didn't seem to have the scoring ability to surpass RE Deemers enough for how well they play defensively, and eventually it just ran out for them. They were good on the defensive side of the ball, but just not enough offensively. I think it's fair to point out that they probably were looking for a spot in the Region 6 tourney, at least get up to more intense competition, but it was just so that only one team had to advance, and it was RE Deemers, and so their season came to a quick ending, and they'll be losing a few seniors, but still some other nice pieces in play to work with that I think it'll be very interesting to see how they turn out as far as next year goes. As for the boys team, you could say they were well in it. They made it all the way to the Region 6 semifinal game. All that just to lose to the Rugby Panthers. Heck, might I even add a very good Rugby Panther squad that's been there, done that. They just always seem to be the team that comes out of the Region 6 boys basketball tournament advancing to the state tournament. But Bishop Bryan gave Rugby all they had. They gave Rugby all that they could handle. And at times, Bishop Bryan was leading in the game. And you gotta praise them. You gotta give them credit for how they handled Rugby for most of that first half. I think even Bishop Bryan actually came out leading at halftime. So I guess you could say kind of like with what the Bishop Bryan girls do to every opponent, they were playing Rugby right into a spot where they probably weren't going to be comfortable with it. But of course, the Rugby Panthers, being the way that they are, just turned it on in the second half. Bishop Bryan tried holding on for as long as they could, and even just all throughout the game, the deficit in the end, I think, was by 4 points. And to think that they were that close to heading into overtime with Rugby, or heck, even winning the game against Rugby, to think that they were a few free throws away or a few missed opportunities away from advancing, that says a lot about the team's character and them having to persevere, and that reflects on their performance. So give these guys some credit for what they were able to do, especially in the Region 6 tournament. Of course, they made it all the way to the District 12 championship game, which they had lost to the Redeemers Knights. So both the boys and girls teams getting involved in the action with each other, and you most definitely love to see that. I mean, we don't know, or I should say, I don't know how well they feel about facing off with each other, judging by the fans' interaction and just how much they've gotten involved. I'm talking like the student sections. It seemed like they were pretty into it. So, obviously, it's no secret that the one aspires to be better than the other and vice versa. And that's going to happen a lot. It's already happening. It's been happening for years now. And who's to stop it? So, it's a great rivalry. The two Class B schools here in the beautiful city, in the beautiful Magic City. Kind of getting a little off track here, but that's what needs to be said here is important. And it very well applies to the situation at hand. So, no matter what happens in the future, there's bound to be, at some point, that Bishop Bryan and Redeemers are going to see each other, whatever sport it might be. And so now, I know we just got done recapping the boys' team for Bishop Bryan. Let's move quickly to Redeemers for the girls' basketball team, the Lady Knights. Now, this group, for what they had, kind of like Bishop Bryan, the wrestling team over there for Bishop Bryan. This is a young, inexperienced group that only had a few seniors, but yet they were able to make lemonade with just a few lemons that were given to them. And with what they had as a group and what they were able to do is really impressive. I think what really hurt this team a lot was just the competition around the area, around the Region 6 borders. Like, it was just hard to compete against some of the top-notch clubs that were out there, like Glenburn, who ended up taking the Region 6 crown and going to the state tournament at the Dome. But the thing with Redeemers, what made them so fun to watch each night, was that they were defensive-minded, but they knew specifically also that points are just as important. But for them, they were a defensive-minded team. They would track down, focus in, lock down, and whether it was in the paint, really, it all just started off at the perimeter, because the Knights defensively on the perimeter, they were virtually unstoppable. So if you try to attack them with the three, good luck trying to do that. And that was essentially step one, was that their perimeter defense was off the charts. If a team got by that, the Knights were able to shift so quickly. They were able to hustle, keep track. They were really locked in on their own defenders, or they were locked in on their own guys. And really, they were just hard to get past. And then you had some options in the paint, like Aubrey Greedle and Olivia Nelson, the Knights did. And even that was hard to get through. And even when you didn't score, there's a very slim chance you were going to get the rebound. So this Knights team was successful because they were a defensive-minded team. Their motto was essentially the best offense is defense. They had that defensive mentality. They were relentless, ruthless. And when they got the ball, you better be ready, because once they get that thing's gone. That thing is going to move quickly. Some of their skill players, their guards, they're young, but they're really fast and strategic. A great mix of that, along with some leadership too. Another big part of their game is just they were so quick in transition, moving the ball up, that the other teams weren't ready. And our Redeemers, it just seemed like every night they had one player that was wide open down the court, and boom, easy layup for 2 points. And that kept happening a lot, and they were really utilizing that, taking advantage. And they lost in round 1 of the Region 6 tournament. This team was good, but there was just so much competition that was even tougher. And I think if you're our Redeemers looking back on this season, you almost got to count it as a success. Nothing against the 2 seniors, obviously. They're only losing 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. And so they're returning much of the core already intact. Some of the JV players, with how many blowouts the varsity team had this year, JV players got some valuable experience on the varsity court, and that's only going to get them better. I mean, what else can you really do? I mean, you don't go up 60 without your top players, and what sense does it make to keep them in there? Obviously, get them their rest, get them prepped and ready for the next game, and have the younger players have a shot at operating a varsity offense and defense. So most of this core already intact, going to return next year. I wouldn't be surprised if they stick with the identity that they set in place. Coach Scott Peterson doing a phenomenal job with the group that he has. Really, they didn't have very many options. And like I said, with the very little that they were given, or that they had, they made, I would say, the most of it. So really, give them credit. They'll be back next year, and we'll be curious to see how the other competition, the other teams in the Region 6, how the competition, the outlook looks for that. Obviously, you want to be the best, you want to beat the best, but I don't think this team's going away anytime soon. With much of the core still intact, be on the lookout for them. And then for our final team, I believe, we've gone through Ryan Wrestling, girls and boys basketball for our Redeemers. And so I believe this should be the last one. I hope I'm not forgetting one. But yes, our final team for the recapping of Class B winter sports. Obviously, like I said, folks, we are quite a bit behind here. This semester got really busy, way out of hand for me. And so I just haven't had time to record. Again, want to thank you for all of you for tuning in and keeping up here. And we'll certainly do some catch-up episodes here next, as we're way deep into the spring season. Also, some other fun events to talk about, along with Minot State hockey, like I said earlier, Minot Toros and Sabre Dogs as well. But for our final team for the Class B Winter Sports Recap, our Redeemers boys basketball. And oh boy, that you could very well say that this was probably, I mean, you never want to put words into anyone's mouth, or I guess anyone really. This was probably not what they were hoping for. For our Redeemers boys basketball, if you know what I mean. So they lost to the Bottineau Braves in the region tournament, and it was actually in round 1. So they got bounced in round 1 to Bottineau, who just played such a gritty defensive style, toughness, capability to score whenever they got the chance. Like our Redeemers, there were instances where they kept shooting themselves in the foot. You could argue that, but really, whenever you gave Bottineau a chance, they just seemed to take it and run with it. And for our Redeemers, after making it to the region championship game last year against Rugby, I actually did not go to it because this was when COVID was in its beginning stages of putting everything on pause, like as everything else was starting to go on pause, they still went with the Class B region tournament, and they even played some of the major basketball tournaments for a little bit until they stopped. But they made it to the Region 6 tournament. They didn't lose very many seniors from last year. They still had a great core of players. They had many options to work with. The skill players with Zach Hendrickson and William Sanders. Great shooters, can drive the basket when they need to. Levi Weekly, their big man down low in the paint, can also shoot a three very well. They had lots to work with, and you would think, you could argue that they could have made it back to the Region 6 championship game for a chance to play in the state tournament. Probably would have faced Rugby again if that were the case. They had everything going for them. They had a great regular season. Again, District 12 champions over Bishop Ryan. But when it came to the region tournament, they just disappointed. That's for our Redeemers. They were probably hoping for more out of it, but everything just seemed to go Bottineau's way. Again, that was the team they faced in the first round. And really, the Knights just couldn't mush anything together. And Bottineau really took on that challenge of the 4 seed, probably thinking they had nothing to lose. Because honestly, what happens when you go in as a 4 seed? Immediately, you're considered the underdogs. Some teams thrive with that. Some teams just have to work harder with it. Really, anything is possible. Like, seeds don't mean anything. You can be the 4 seed and make it all the way to the region championship game, which is exactly what Bottineau did. They were gritty, tough, full of tenacity, opportunistic on all their possessions. You mix that in with how much the Knights struggled to get anything going offensively, and it was just a formula that went in Bottineau's favor and didn't help our Redeemers much. So a disappointing finish for the Knights basketball team for the boys. Looking towards next year, their big guy, Zach Hendrickson. Well, I shouldn't say big guy, but the big one for our Redeemers, Zach Hendrickson. He's going to be a senior next year. Levi Weekly's going to be gone, so his size and presence will be missed greatly. It's all going to be about who can be that replacement in that replacement spot. Is it Jared Brown? Could Rylan Vibetto grow a little bit in height in the offseason? That spot is going to be up for grabs for sure. William Sanders and his three-point ability and defense will be missed. Jonah Ringstead, who actually didn't play much this year. I don't want to speculate. Maybe it was injury early in the season, but regardless, he did not play much in the season. Actually came back in time for tournament season. His leadership and overall ability to get creative offensively will be missed. So he was not bad of a scorer. Tanner Swenson will also be missed. He is another one of our Redeemers' good skill guys. But like I said, they have some returners like Colton Francis, who is still in his sophomore year, by the way. Jared Brown, he is a leading candidate to replace Levi Weekly. So is Rylan Vibetto. Marcus Overby could make a big jump. He's a freshman this year, but being a sophomore next year, I think there's a starting slot for him to be had, for sure. It all depends on how the competition goes through that. And so I think this could really motivate teams. The results, it's happened a lot in pro sports that they finish at a spot where they weren't expected to, probably not what they were hoping for, but that could be a motivating factor for them in the next season. Like, that could push them. So even with some of these guys that they're losing, don't count them out, because there's a reason. Players and teams go through this every year. You gotta have depth in whatever you do. And from the JV team this year, a lot of candidates, a lot of potential guys to take over some starting slots next year. And our Redeemers still has a few key parts, like Colton Francis and Zach Hendrickson. Like, a lot of things could happen. I don't think they would make any adjustments to their game. Just stick to the same one. But if there is an adjustment to be had because of the size factor, losing Levi Weekly, that could lead to some more creativity on offense. That could be music to Zach Hendrickson's ears. Plus, you add in that motivation from what happened in the recent region tournament, a lot of things could go right for this Our Redeemers team. At least I like to be an optimist. So, and I think they will do well next year. I think they will stay in competition. And like I said, they still have some good pieces in play here. And so now this has been our recapping of the Class B winter athletic teams. Recording this in, April/May. I did one segment in April, now doing this now in May. It is now in the summer. I think next episode we will talk about the spring high school teams. But for this final segment on this Class B Winter Sports Recap show, before I get to that, you guys want to make sure to check out our sponsors, Peyton Bartsch Photography and Joshua Strong Photography as well. They're on social media at Bartsch Photos on Twitter, at Peyton Bartsch Photography on Instagram, and Joshua Strong at _Joshua W. Strong. Both of the handles on the Twitter and Instagram. These guys are immensely talented. They obviously have passions for using a camera, and when they are looking for that nice clean shot, they will get it, and their cameras are of high quality too. So check out what they have to offer, because you don't want to miss it. Moving on now to kind of some of the major events that happened while we have been away from the recording booth, or in my case, I'm actually recording at home still. The ACHA Women's National Tournament. I'll just recap these quickly, and maybe later on down the road we can get into some more detail. Heck, we might even have some guests on the show, which I'm planning, if this show goes well, we're going to start adding some new mechanisms to the brand if it turns out well. In fact, you're already listening to an example right now, having had Kaya on the show earlier, and a nice little radio ad piece about our broadcasting department at Minot State. This turns out well, which I'm fully confident it will. We could turn this into something. But as I was saying, some of the major events, Minot hosted the ACHA Women's National Tournament. I'll just touch on these quickly. Minot State went 2-1 in the, I don't know what you would call it, I guess round robins or whatever, like the preliminary rounds. So Minot State had played Adrian, lost to them. They beat Midland, and they also beat McKendree, which was an easy one for them. So what started out, it was a 3-1 loss to Adrian, 3-2 win against Midland, and 7-0 versus McKendree. I don't know about the scenarios, or I guess how the seeding worked out. I've heard some things where even if Minot State had lost two games in the prelims, they still would have gotten in just as a lower seed. But they did well enough that they got the first seed in one of the pools, and they had to go up against the Lindenwood Lions in the semifinal round. So there were only so many teams in the tournament, and 4 of them made it to the semifinals. Well, obviously 2 in one round, 2 in the other. So Minot State was one of the final 4. Unfortunately, lost in the semis to the Lindenwood Lions, 3-0. And then the eventual champions of the whole shebang, the Liberty Flames, they would take down the Lindenwood Lions. Let me see if I can pull up a score from that real quick here. Let me see, was it 4-0? It seemed like it was 4-0. No, I lied. It was 3-1. See, I didn't think it was 4-0. I wasn't quite sure, but checking to confirm here, yes, 3-1, Liberty beat Lindenwood. So a tough finish for MSU women's hockey in the semifinals. After the last time they played, they were in the national championship, and they had been there the year before. And there's just some steep competition around the ACHA Division I landscape for women's hockey. For the Lady Beavers, they're going to be perennial contenders. I have no worries about that. We just can hope and see that they'll be contending for a championship. Take what you had from this past year, maybe learn what you could take in from this year and apply it to next year. Again, here's another situation. Much of their core is going to be back. There's going to be some huge losses with some of the seniors, though, because of what they brought to the team, like Sammy Jo Henry, for example. She's going to be a huge one. And Jensen Spigelski made some great contributions in her 2 years that she was here. Those are going to be key losses that how can you replace, first of all? But much of their core is still intact. Another situation where they had 2 players graduate, and I still think, and I would assume, I don't want to put any words in other people's mouths, but I would assume, and everyone would agree, that this team is perennial championship contenders, and I believe that to be the case for a long time. So we'll see how they do. Didn't score in the semis. Hopefully fortunes can change there. They competed well in the first 2 games. The McKendree game was just an easy one to just kind of move over. They competed well, but some of the games, just the goals didn't come by. Hopefully that changes next year. As for the MSU men's team, still considered defending champions because despite COVID last year taking away the season, the Beavers in the 2018-2019 season, winning the national championship, still considered defending champs, even after COVID took the last tournament away. So there weren't any results, so really, who else can you call defending champions? Like the Minot State Beavers, of course. And so they went at it once again. As a result, they went on yet another deep playoff run, but unfortunately lost to the Adrian College Bulldogs in the national championship. Came so close to repeating, but man, it was another impressive run for the boys in red and white. They came so close, but yet just not enough. And Adrian College was deep this year. They had a really good squad. Like, don't count them out too. They were recent ACHA national champions before the Beavers won it in the 18-19 season. So it was a battle of past ACHA champions, and Adrian got the better end of it. Their top guys, their skill guys came to play, and the Beavers, they just ran out of gas at the end, and there's really nothing else you can do but congratulate them on the season that they had, having to deal with the COVID situation, shortened benches on most nights, and man, were they phenomenal. And just like the women's team, they're going to be perennial contenders as well. I wholeheartedly believe that. The core is there. Even though they're losing a few more seniors than the women's team, that championship mentality, that culture, tradition, it's already having an impact on their younger guys, which is easily going to be passed down on the new players that come into this program. So a tough finish for the men's team, but still very impressive the season that they had, and to able to go on another deep postseason run once again. Not easy to do. Absolutely not easy to do. Before they had made it to the ACHA National Championship, they had beaten Calvin University, who, fun fact, has a player by the name of Jared Vertanen. I actually did a sports report on this for KMSU and inside the broadcasting department, the campus TV show MSU Inside Out. I did a sports report on this when I was the sports director for the campus TV show. Calvin University has a player by the name of Jared Vertanen, who is the cousin of Vancouver Canucks player Jake Vertanen, which, fun fact there. They had beaten Calvin 2-1. Not an easy game to go through. They had beaten the Lindenwood Lions 2-1. Not an easy game to go through. Or I shouldn't say not an easy game, but not an easy opponent to go through. And then you look at their semifinal game against Liberty University, 3-1. The Beavers took it. Again, not an easy opponent to go through. So when you look at this postseason run, even though it was 6-1 in the championship game, like, these boys battled hard. Like, you can argue they battled hard, even even in the championship game. It's probably 6-1. A score probably doesn't indicate the effort that the Minot State men's team for hockey put on this year. What they did is not easy, and we need to give them all the credit for what they were able to do in a season like this. They were phenomenal this year. Unfortunately, did not get the big prize out of it, but they fought hard for it, and they just came up short, ran out of gas, and just could not get it done, but they still had a phenomenal season nonetheless. So definitely a congrats in order for how they did. And now for some more hockey. Ironically, as we're in a spring, just getting out of the spring season and into summer, we still got more hockey going on. The Minot Minotaurs, they were able to just barely squeak into the Robertson Cup playoffs with an overtime loss, with a point from an overtime loss to Bismarck. That got them in barely, and I'll recap more on that later, I'll recap more on their first round series, which is actually game 3 is tomorrow. I'll talk more on it, but they're already in the postseason competing. I'll talk more about it in the next episode, but kind of sputtering a little bit. And what was I saying as the season was going on earlier? That it is a tough division, and if you slip, you could slip quite a bit. And the Toros had one little slip up against, obviously, the teams like Aberdeen and Bismarck. They're tough. Minot's had Aberdeen's number a little bit in just a few games this year. They can compete with Bismarck, but again, these are tough games to have against opponents of that caliber, and the Toros had one slip up, and that just seemed to trickle down, and they're kind of sputtering a little bit entering the postseason. And so hopefully, with the mindset of there being a kind of a turning of the page, a new season with playoffs, hopefully we can see them kind of rewriting to get back on the main course again, or working towards the main task at hand, and doing so in a better effort or hardworking group, however you want to put it. So there you have it for the Minotaurs, just barely getting into the postseason. And I think that'll be about it for this episode. If I missed anything, which let me disclaimer now, there's a lot to get to. I know I didn't quite get to everything on this last segment. I am well aware that there's still a lot more to talk about. I will have that in the next episode, but if there's anything else that you maybe want to let me know to talk about, I can most certainly do that, but keep in mind that I will save a lot of subjects for the next episode. But like I said, Minot sports fans, I do apologize for the long absence. Got caught up in a busy semester, but now that it's summer, have a lot more time, and getting this episode out should be a huge weight lifted off, like I was saying earlier, and we'll definitely have plenty of time to get to some more episodes, get to some more interviews, like with Kaya Shaw. I've already had multiple requests from you guys to interview certain people, and some other athletes that I have in mind as well. Should be great, should be a lot of fun. Cannot wait for this year. Obviously, we're going to do the summer series once again, but I'm going to kind of extend season 2 just a little bit, just to pick up a few more episodes in there. And then at some point, we'll begin the summer series edition of 2021, which obviously is the same thing as I was describing last year. The summer series, it's just the same thing, just the same episodes, just the same format that we go with. No talking Minot sports, kind of like what I'm doing right now. Technically, I could make it into season 2, convert it into season 3 by the time the school year starts. I don't know. Do I make a change to that? I'm not quite sure, but for now, we'll stick with the summer series plan. Obviously, it's just going to be the same sports talk show of Minot Sports, just that we're doing it in the summer. We're transitioning from season 2 to season 3. I may change it. I may look into it more. I may change it. I don't know quite yet, but we'll see for now. We'll stick with that game plan, but we'll extend season 2 by a couple of episodes. But that'll be it for this Class B Winter Sports recap for episode 25. We will begin talking about spring sports for high school, more updates, especially on Minotauros, a lot of coaching hires, a lot of off-season changes as those time periods are beginning for some teams here in town and some new seasons beginning as well. Don't forget the Sabre Dogs as they're just getting started here. So we'll begin talking spring sports and summarizing at the same time because it's already tournament season. We'll get into that talk. Hoping I can have a guest on the regular now and show off some more unique stuff to you guys, some more unique content. But that is going to do it for this episode number 24 of the Minot Sports Podcast in Season 2. Once again, be sure to check out the podcast on social media. Like I always do every day, I provide sports updates and highlights of games that I go to each and every day on the social media, Instagram and Twitter. Still don't know why I'm hesitant on Facebook just yet, but I should hopefully get into that soon. I mean, I could easily do it. I just don't know what's holding me back. But if you'd like to see highlights on Facebook, definitely let me know. So I'll look into that. But yes, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can see it on the screen also. And subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can find all of the podcast episodes posted. Be sure to check out our sponsors, Peyton, Bartsch, and Joshua Strong Photography on social media. Check out KMSU TV and Radio. We thank them for allowing us to use their studios in particular, to record whenever we are able to go up there. And always big supporters from the professors and kind of some of the station managers and assistants, whoever is up there. They do a great job working hard every day and also working in the summer season. The staff there at Minot State doing that part. And yes, that'll be it. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll definitely for sure catch up here and we're going to make it happen. So stay tuned, Minot Sports fans. Lots of more great content coming up on the way. Again, thank you for tuning in. As always, stay safe and healthy out there. Have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you in the next one. Peace out.